What is up, bros? Josh here. In today's video, we're going over the currently work in progress Tier 8 Pan-European destroyer, the Oland, and this is a ship that is going to be going against some really good destroyers at Tier 8. Tier 8 is very competitive in the destroyer class with ships like the Cossack and the Benson and the Lightning and fill in whatever other Tier 8 destroyer that's really good. However, though, I feel like the Oland has found its spot, and it is the Tier 8 for the upcoming Pan-European destroyer line, so it is one we will all get to play. However, though, it is still currently work in progress. These stats are subject to change and could change before they officially go live. First of all, let's dive into the captain build I used in this video, and it is going to affect some of the values. And this is one that a lot of people have asked, what am I going to use? What captain build do I use for these ships? And it's very simple. There's a couple values I'm really looking at, and that is deciding whether or not I'm going to use one of two skills, basically. Very basic first 10 points. Again, this is a 19-point captain I am using. So in the future, though, when this line does come out, if you do not have one of the Pan-European ships, the premium ships that are currently in the game, you are going to have to start a brand new captain. So it is a bit of a downside. So if you have some elite commander XP, you definitely do want to save that up. However, we don't have an official time for when this line will come out, but you are going to need to start a brand new captain from 0, 3, whatever you start out with using whatever points or whatever you have. This one, though, we do have a 19 point, but the basic build I am running is Priority Target, Last Stand, Survivability Expert, Concealment. After that, I am picking up the radiolocation. I do really like this, especially on a ship that doesn't have smoke. A lot of people think radiolocation is purely like an offensive captain skill. I like to use it as defensive because although I am fairly stealthy, there are things that outspot me, and I do know that things are going to be able to outgun me, attack me. I don't have a way to really get away, so I've been using it more defensively more than anything. Now, the two things I am switching around, there's basically two captains I have set up for testing these DDs. As you see, we have plenty more to go over, so look forward to those videos. But one captain is set up with BFT, the other is set up with Torpedo Armament Expertise. That is the captain build I am switching out for. In the higher tiers, I'm tending to take the Torpedo Armament. However, in this ship, I did take the BFT because I want to shoot a little bit faster. It's up to preference, obviously. In the lower tiers, I'm taking BFT, though, because I want to be able to kill the enemy destroyers. In the higher tiers, I'm kind of good. You have a little bit more room to play with, so I'm using a bit more of the Torp action. It's still kind of testing some stuff out, but that is the basic of what I'm using here. So we are going to get some of the stats on this ship changed with BFT, as well as Survivability Expert, and then Adrenaline Rush is just the cherry on top. Continuing on with the normal Pan-European destroyers, we are not getting smoke, but we are getting speed boost, heal, and AA. And this is the first one that we are really starting to see some pretty potent AA. I wouldn't say it is like its tier 10 brother, the Holland, but the Oland is pretty good. It's okay. It's good. I will at least say it's good. It's not bad, but it's good for shooting down some planes, and you'll see us go against some planes in this game. Again, the Pan-European destroyers are kind of ships. The majority of them really starting at tier 8. Seems like tier 8 is really when it starts to get its identity as these higher AA ships. The lower tier is really not so much, although you can shoot down some planes, but still kind of the identity of the Pan-European destroyers. Upgrades I am using. Now, I am really liking this module, the AA Mod 1, and as we all know, with the upcoming changes to modules, this is actually going to get buffed anyway. So this is a nice little module. It seems to be helping. It could purely be a placebo effect. I started running this on some of the higher tier stuff, especially when I was running the Holland and the tier 9. I'm not even going to try to say that name, the Ooster. I'm just going to call it that. But I am liking that perk. I don't know if that 2 extra puffs on the AA is really kind of making the difference, but it at least seems like that. So I am running main armament mod 1. Steering gears, the AA, so we are not getting aiming system, and that is one thing that I wish I could have both of those, but we are not using aiming system mod 1. The upcoming aiming system will be a little bit harder to choose between these two, but we'll see once those officially come out. Steering gears, and then concealment. And then the stats we're looking at on the ship are 16,500, so you're actually on the lower end for this tier. I mean, you're looking at Benson's above 18k, same with the Cossack, and to the higher end, Loyang near 18k. So you are on the lower end for this tier, so you do have to be a little careful with what you're going against, and you're going to start pumping out a little bit more torp-wise instead of just going a bit more gun-wise. That's kind of the identity, though. This line doesn't have the biggest HP pool. We've seen some changes already to some of these ships, like the Vostros has already gotten some changes too in the devlog. This one, however, hasn't gotten it. This is switching to the 2x2, so kind of like the Friesland if you've played that, the Tier 9 Premium Destroyer. The 2x2, fairly quick reload, so again, we are getting at 2.3 seconds on the reload. That's affected by BFT. A 7% fire chance, and again, your guns are pretty solid. One thing I do notice, and I think is a characteristic of these DDs when it's a 2x2, the shells aren't super accurate, and it can be annoying at time to time. For some reason, it seems like they're actually shooting a tad high too. It might just be me playing. I'm not sure, but yeah, 2x2. So you're pumping out some decent damage, but again, low health pool, so you got to go into fights pretty smart. You can't just take every fight on. Fairly decent range at 10.1. It actually kind of works in your favor because you don't want to get into too many fights. You're fairly large. Torpedo tubes. Now, this is one of the things that kind of makes my decision on whether or not I'm taking these. So normally what I like to do is if I can get it under a minute on the reload, which is a lot of the lower tiers, I take BFT. This one is kind of that in between, and I decided to take BFT instead of the Torp. That was kind of my cutoff, is a minute on the reload for Torps. If I can stay under that, I'm going to take BFT. If it's above that, I'm going to take the torpedoes. This one, though, I'm kind of played a little bit more around with BFT, and I kind of liked it. 12 kilometers, though, really good range. Speed, 76 knots, very, very good. Torpedoes, though, 70 seconds. Again, very low alpha on these, but still 76 knots. Max roll of 10,700 detected at 1.6. I'm loving these DDs so far. I like that they're unique, spammy kind of torps, but pretty low alpha. But they can be pretty punishing, though. Really, they can. And I'm liking it a lot. AA is pretty solid. You will see us doing this. It's really hard to say, like, hey, this has a rating of 53, or even going over that, even like the DPS or whatever it has. It's kind of hard to even, like, what do these values really even mean anymore, sadly. But you will see us go against some planes in game, so you get a little bit more of a feel. Now, these ships are starting to drop off some of their speed, which is kind of weird. You get kind of the lower stuff that's actually quite quick, 39 knots on some of the lower tiers. 35 knots, so again, fairly low health pool, okay guns, good speedy torps, but kind of slow, but you do get a fairly low detection. Now, again, you are going to get out-detected by a couple of the ships, Cossack, Lightning, Kagero, insert a couple other ones, but you are going to outspot some other ones like the Loyang, Benson, you know, a couple of Ogdemoy, stuff like that. So you are kind of in this middle ground, and I think it's good. I think this has found its place in Tier 8 with so many other good destroyers. However, though, let's dive into some gameplay and show what this ship can do at Tier 8 with even some CVs in the sky. Here we are in game with the Oland, and this is almost, if you want to look at it this way, almost like a worst case scenario. We're in a game, we're bottom tiered, which I really don't think is that bad for a Tier 8 destroyer. I think most Tier 8 DDs at least up tier fairly well. But this one, we are going against a CV. Now, going against a CV is never a fun thing as a destroyer, as CVs are meant to counter DDs. However, though, when you are playing as a pan-European destroyer, you are kind of looking forward to some CVs being there because, one, you're really good at dealing with them. Now, the Oland doesn't have the same impact against planes as its Tier 9 and Tier 10 brother, currently both work in progress as well, but for Tier 8 it is fairly solid, and I would say it probably feels the most comfortable out of all the other Tier 8 destroyers in the game. Sorry, USS Kid, I definitely don't feel as comfortable in that as I do in this ship itself. Hopefully we maybe see some changes there, but really when you are playing a Tier 8 destroyer, you get away from a lot of captain builds that happen to do. I mean, back in the day, you'd actually take captain builds that were based around shooting down planes. Nowadays, a lot of people have really bailed on it because it doesn't feel like you have an impact against planes. With the Oland, though, it feels like you definitely do. And again, just running BFT as well as the module, I felt very comfortable against planes. Now, you have to be pretty careful, though, because you do have a fairly low amount of HP, so it is a bit of a bummer. But still, I felt like it dealt with planes fairly well. Still, though, one thing that this ship does do, and I talked about it with one of the other ships in this line, is it does kind of mess with the brain of a normal destroyer. And here you're going to see us going against Tier 8 planes again. Now, the Oland is another ship we talked about, and you can actually see we're doing some decent damage. Haven't knocked on a plane. He probably used his heal. But one of the things that these ships kind of do is they do kind of throw off a lot of destroyer players. So if you get what I'm kind of talking about, as there's a ton of AA noise right now, if you get what I'm talking about, when you're going into a cap and just side note, people may be asking why I didn't use my AA consumable. I didn't use my AA consumable right there. I only have 3 of them. And the main reason is that those were AP bombs, so they're not really that scary. Since they are AP bombs don't do much against destroyers, so that's the reason why I didn't use them. One of the things you want to do a lot, though, is get used to your sectoring with these, because sectoring does help a lot. Also, I don't know what it is about the Friesland, but the Friesland seems like it kind of, being pan-European itself, does deal with these destroyers because it pumps out a ton of damage, and these ships take damage very well because they're fairly large. I would say it's probably around the same size as the Z-23, but the Z-23 also has like 6,000 more life or something crazy like that. But we'll take a 7K on that destroyer. What I was saying, though, is that these destroyers kind of throw a whole curveball into playing DD on the other side, so as a red destroyer. And what I mean by that is normally when you go into a cap, you're not used to these really fast reloading torps. Now, there are a couple torps that reload fairly quickly, especially in the lower tiers. But for tier 7, tier 8, nothing really reloads that quick. Maybe the Sims, but those torps are super slow, so you don't really need to worry about it. But these torps getting a mix of a fast reload as well as a long range and fast speed, these are kind of unique, and what it can do is actually one of the reasons why I like radiolocation so much on these. I had a big conversation with a couple other CCs about radiolocation on these as well. Some aren't taking it. Is that these torps get into spots that normal torps don't really get into, and what I mean by that, again, most torps tend to be slower. Most torps, and I think you're going to see me here take a lot of damage. Most torps kind of get into a spot, and the F key spam, get into some danger of kind of getting torps early is what I'm trying to say. So no other ships kind of put this pressure on other DDs and certain situations, but these ones definitely do kind of throw a bit of a curveball. Now, one of the things is people are like, oh, is this going to be super competitive? These destroyers, are these going to be clan battles? Are these going to be ranked battles? Are these going to be, you know, I'm not sure. I don't see them particularly replacing, let's say, the kind of kings of tier 8, kings and queens of tier 8, and that is stuff like the Cossack, that is stuff like the Lightning, that is stuff like the Benson Lo Yang, these ships that are still extremely strong. I don't think they're going to quite replace them, and that is because they still don't have smoke. Smoke is so strong. Being able to disengage from ships and being able to kind of farm damage from smoke is extremely strong, and this ship doesn't really have that the ability to do so. So you have to be kind of, again, you have to be fairly careful with going into fights with this. Again, I will say that this is a ship and this is a line that is not going to be quite new player friendly. Now, it won't be as difficult, and here you see we are pumping in some AA on this. He's probably using his heal because it's still fairly early, but again, I felt like we dealt with planes fairly well with these ships. You're not seeing me tear too many down. Again, holding on to my AA consumable because I really want to hold off for rockets because I know those can be bad. But here we go, starting to knock out some planes, flying over, taking out the fighter, and even shooting down some of the squads. So definitely not as strong as its kind of no-fly zone big brother at tier 10 in the Holland, but still you're able to deal some damage to those and actually kind of take out a little bit when it comes to tier 8 planes. Now, probably not going to deplane him, but you're definitely going to hurt his resources, and unlike really any destroyer, and you kind of feel comfortable having your AA on, and really you're almost kind of acting as an AA ship helping teammates out, which is kind of weird. It's different. It feels very much like old school AA, if you will. But yeah, anyways, though, these ships competitive wise, I find it hard to be super competitive. Now, I think these do have a specific role that they play, and I find it very fun because it's unique. But being, let's say, like the next star of ranked, you got to think of it. You don't have a way to disengage. You're not super fast like the French destroyers. You're not the stealthiest, so you got to be careful. You're going to get out spot by stuff, and again, you don't have the ability to disengage from fights, from things like smoke, you know, other stuff like that. You do have a fairly low HP pool, but you do have those heals. You're one of the few destroyers at this tier that actually has heals. You do have some decent DPM, and you can make a big impact on games with your fast reloading torps, but still, not really having the biggest impact with those other things holding you back. So I do find that they will be probably better in random battles than they are ranked battles. But again, it is such a different it's such a different feeling when playing these DDs. It's the only line of destroyers, the single only line of DDs that I am bummed out when I don't see a CV. Now, obviously, I don't want to be going against tier 10 CVs, but this is the line where I get bummed out that I'm not seeing, or I'm not playing against CVs. It's such a throwback to, let's say, like the USN destroyers back in the day, even some of the Russian destroyers back in the day. This is definitely a throwback. So that's one thing I've really been enjoying. And even some of the changes we've seen on some of the ships that they have changed, they haven't been touching the AA. Now, they are lower ones that tend to not have a lot of AA. That's not really their strength, but I do feel like we may see some of these AA values go live, and that would be really cool as a destroyer player like myself. It almost feels like, again, the revenge of DDs, being able to shoot down planes, and that could be a very cool identity, which would give these guys a very strong role for being anti-destroyer. So we'll see. Again, work in progress. These stats are subject to change. I'm assuming that the testing of these DDs, which they obviously go through, the average plane kills is probably tenfold compared to the other destroyers. It's pretty nutty, but again, it's the only DD. Again, looking back at the Holland to tier 10, that was a destroyer that I was literally hunting down CVs, and they gave up shooting, or they gave up going after me with planes because they couldn't do anything. So this one doesn't quite have that ability. Maybe could against like a tier 6 CV, but as for everything else, though, you'll shoot down some planes. You'll see us get some more planes too. When it comes to it here, we're going against a Venezia. I was like, please don't kill me. I was like, please don't murder me, sir. And in the Venezia, don't one-shot me, because again, I'm only at 9,000 life right now. And again, holding off for rockets, and he has to go over my A, and before then, we're going to shoot down some of his squad planes as well as some of his fighters. So racking up those plane kills on the ship. So again, another way to kind of get through this line too, you get a nice little chunk of extra XP for these ships. I really started noticing, and now you'll see a video coming up in the next few days, of the odd tiers. We've gotten those. We've kind of done the even tiers first. We've gotten the odd tiers recently. Again, 12 planes right there, so we'll definitely take that. But a nice little bonus to some XP, so you'll definitely get through these faster. These could be some fairly good ships to regrind lines for the Research Bureau as well, so something also to keep in mind, and something I really kind of haven't thought of until I just said it right there. So this could be because you just get so much more XP. There's a lot of games where I was having really high base XP games. And again, the part I love about it is you have a lot of tools if you use them correctly, and those speedy torps, again, not super high alpha damage, but it seems like they have fairly high flood chance. That's information that we tend to not get, but they seem to have a fairly high flood chance, and they just are super good for aerial denial. So something that I've really been enjoying. A nice mix of guns, a nice mix of AA. Again, torps, using torps is a strong tool, not so much as getting deb strikes from torps, but more of forcing repairs. Very strong. But yeah, you are definitely going to have some problems going against other DDs. One thing I have noticed is you do well against certain ones, while other things that kind of hold it down, like Cossacks, are very dangerous to go against. You know, you have a decent health pool, but it does get chunked down fairly quickly. Again, you're a high setting ship in the water, but if you avoid those fights and pick those fights fairly well, you're going to have to not lack discipline when it comes to these destroyers, because you have to take fights pretty smartly. So you have to potentially not fire your guns at something that is around, you know, your detection's 5.6. You might have to not shoot at something that's 6 kilometers away, because it just isn't the right choice, because you need to save that life. You need to save the HP, because it's so precious on something that has, on the lower end, a low HP pool. So, but again, though, using these tools, and this was kind of a weird game. We had our Yamato spamming all game. Obviously, he is going all the way around CCAP, and I think he spends the game kind of chasing a cruiser way at the bottom of the map, and we're trying to do what we can. Again, we are bottom tiered, and really kind of just chilling, but pumping in ships, pumping in torps, and pumping in some damage on these if we can, offering some stuff. And I think we're gonna see maybe one of the weirdest Tirpitz moves. Tirpitz obviously known for having its torpedoes on one side, but I think our Tirpitz doesn't decide to do that at all. It actually would have been a decent little play for him if he just would have rounded the corner. So we see our Thunderer off to our right here. He's gonna basically die because he's gonna get farmed down the Venezia as well as the Enterprise, so nothing we can do there. Tirpitz, Tirpitz is pushing in, but I think if I remember correctly, he just kind of sits there and then turns away. So he has a really good position here to do some great damage against this Tirpitz, potentially even trade. But instead, he kind of just hangs out and shoots at the Yamato that I think is two-angled. Actually, I can't tell from this angle. But I thought this game was going to be a loss. It was kind of a weird game. Again, we have some really weird high tier battleships. We had our Thunderer who did actually pump in some damage, some decent damage on these guys. Our Graf Zeppelins pumping in some damage on these battleships. But the Tirpitz and everything it's a weird one. That's what you get when it's high tier though. But they're just kind of chilling right here. He's pumping in damage. And again, there's the rockets. So this is what I was holding my AAs for. I used one of them so far. Pumped in a nice little shot on the Yamato. And we're going to see what we can do against these planes. Now, this is one, again, we could actually make this a little bit higher. I haven't gone full-blown AA on these. I haven't gone a full-blown AA, so I haven't taken AFT. I haven't taken, like, manual fire or whatever, played around with that. I don't know if I actually like that skill that much. I haven't played around too much with those, but for a decent, kind of a semi-AA build, it's actually been quite effective. And this was one I was like, okay, cool, he's gonna push in here and maybe kind of trade and do a 2-for-1, and instead our poor Tirpitz had enough of life and turned broadside to 3 battleships, and I don't think he even launched torps. Or I think he did earlier actually, so a bit of a bummer here. He could have easily just gone forward. The Tirpitz on their team is at such an angle that he couldn't have done anything. And we're gonna see Yamato beat up that, and yeah, bit of a bummer, but what are you gonna do there? Nothing. You can't play everyone's ship. So he's taking a big ol' hit here. He does have torps on this other side, the right side, but he will never get those off. He does get a kill on that. He does burn down the Yamato. Oh no, he does get him off. Oh no, those are my torps. No, those are his. Okay, good. Yeah, I didn't think he got those torps off. He could have easily just pushed it and maybe done a 2-for-1 there. Also, a little scary here with this, but again, we are going to be able to chunk through those planes fairly quickly. These ships really haven't been kind of posted. Nice little dev strike there, so we're getting out of that. So that kind of worked out perfectly for us. But again, these are ships that are able to deal with a problem that destroyers really haven't been able to deal with for a long time. Our Puerto Rico is rolling in. He saw the Tirpitz just die, so it is now his turn, but I think he absolutely smacks. Oh yeah, I don't want to spoil it, but we'll see what happens here. But yeah, we are kind of bringing this back. We didn't hold the caps for a long time, and I'm trying to figure out what I want to do here because I only have 69,000 life. Again, Venezia one taps me, so I got to be a little careful. This is a ship, actually, I noticed that I held on to leaving my A on a lot. So that's something more normal. Isn't really normal, if you want to kind of call it that. You're used to kind of just, as a DD these days, you're hiding a little bit more. But this one, though, we aren't really. We're kind of loud and proud with our AA. And there is the Puerto Rico. Radaring the Venezia, our torps are going in. Also, one thing too is these torps are so fast. Normally, if something is at 8 kilometers or whatever and going away full speed, let's say your torps are 10 kilometers, 15, whatever. Normally, torps aren't fast enough to kind of get there. These torps, however, because they're 76 knots, 2-3 times as fast. 2-3 times as fast as getting as the ships travel. So, and as you see, our Yamato, or one of them, or I forgot who it was. Someone was asking if we could cap B when literally our Puerto Rico is on B cap right now. And as you see right across the other side of the map, our Yamato is just chilling. Our hero, the Yamato, on our team that went all the way around C cap. So we have him at least. But we are kind of bringing this game back, which is really important. And I think this is the salvo. I'm like, what? And there we go. So that made the game a little bit easier. And I was pretty happy that he just slayed out that Venezia, because that makes my life way easier. Now, even with 8,600, just under 8,700 life, I felt pretty comfortable against CVs. Again, a situation that is rare or is different. I don't know. That's one thing I really enjoy about these, is they bring something else to the table. And what I'm talking about is they bring kind of an old school feel to destroyers that they used to have or could have at certain lines and whatnot. This is something we haven't seen in a long time, so I do enjoy that. I hope they keep that as an identity of this line. These are going to be a pain in the butt to deal with for CVs for sure, but hey, it's a bit of revenge from DDs if they keep it. Again, work in progress. But this is the tier 8. The rest of this game is just, I think, us. I don't know if we shoot down any more planes. I don't think so. But basically a back and forth game. Bottom tiered CV, kind of a worst case scenario, but still was able to snake out 14 torpedoes, 28 planes, a cap, 3 kills. No big deal. Got to deal with some cruisers, some battleships, some destroyers. You can still be a good destroyer captain, even though you are kind of weak in certain situations. But still, you have to play a bit smarter. But overall, this ship can get the job done and does a different job done that really no other DDs can, which I really, really, really enjoy. I think it's an awesome thing to see in the destroyer class, as we're going to roll over here to A cap and get it done. But overall, I like this ship a lot. The Erland, the tier 8, again, it is work in progress, and stats are subject to change. It could change before it officially goes live. Again, elephant in the room. I do not know when these ships will go live. Who knows? We just had the Royal Navy Heavy line, which is going on currently. So this is going to be probably at least a few updates before we see an event for probably this, maybe 2, 3, who knows. 9.3 seems to be like a pretty big one with a bunch of stuff going on. Could be part of that. I don't know. But again, if you are interested in these DDs, I would start working on a captain, where you could get a lot of XP and start leveling that up. Definitely get to 14 or 17 something to start getting that captain ready with a Bliss or a Friesland or something like that. But overall, a very fun ship. Definitely is going to find a place at tier 8, and I think will be a fairly solid choice. Definitely playing in randoms. But anyways, that's it for me. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Remember, like, subscribe. I'll see you guys next time.